Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Today I'm going to talk to you about some fiction that I'm reading or have read between the nonfiction books that I'm focusing on for the month of November. And I decided the best thing as an antidote to nonfiction would be mysteries. And I'm actually telling you a lie because I didn't think about it one way or another. It just so happens that there are some mysteries in the house. So the first one that came across my attention was A Wizard's Guide to Baking, Defense of Baking by T. Kingfisher. Now this one has a 14-year-old protagonist and Mona. And she's a young girl. She is a baker, and she has a sort of minor magic. And a lot of people in her city, the world that she lives in, are city-states. And in her city, people with minor magic are acceptable so long as they don't draw attention to themselves. But there's a crazy cahoot in the mix, and he has decided that he wants to identify all people with magical qualities of any kind, and he set an assassin to take these people out. So a lot of magical people are fleeing the city and others are being murdered. And our little baker finds herself sort of at the as a near victim. Someone thought it was her and they murdered the wrong girl, and so she's sort of on the hunt for the killer, but she's also on the hunt for what's really going on in the city. Why are all these wizards being killed? Does the Duchess know? And so it's a real good little romp. And one of the things this book has that you don't get very often are two climactic endings. We come to a very interesting near conclusion, and then it kind of just leaves you with a little bit, that just, no, something needs to happen, and it does. So we get a little bit more of a slowdown in the pacing, and then we get a really exciting ending. And the ending is both super imaginative and kooky. Like, aha, that's a pun. Kooky. Cookie. So I'll let you read it for yourself because it's worth the pun. I really enjoyed it. Although the protagonist is 14 years old, I think that this is a good, I think anybody can get a kick out of this book. Anybody who likes a bit of magic and a bit of a mystery and a bit of a romp, I think will enjoy this. And you know, sometimes just because protagonists are frequently older in adult literature, that doesn't mean that a young person can't be accessible. And she is a little bit not quite like a 14-year-old. She's got a head on her shoulders. She's very logical. And that's partly because her parents had died and she was an orphan at a young age. So I think for some reason, if you've got dead parents, it allows the protagonist to be just a little more worldly, a little less immature, and so on. So it works. So I recommend this one for sure. I'd say that's a 4 out of 5. Now the other one that I just finished reading is The Mary Shelley Club by Goldy Moldavsky. Now she has also written Kill the Boy Band, and I didn't read that one. I don't know why. I think for whatever reason it just didn't appeal to me. This one's rock solid. I really enjoyed it. It's about a young girl who's had a traumatic event. Not a young girl, I'm sorry. She's a teenager. And I get a little confused with the American junior, sophomore. I know a freshman from a freshman and a senior from a senior, but the other two kind of elude me. So somewhere around the age of 16 to 17. And it's Rachel Chavez who is our main protagonist. And she's gone to a new high school due to the traumatic event that happens off book. And, you know, new girl, new school, all those kinds of dilemmas, plus working her way through some of the trauma. And she ends up bumping into some people who have a liking for horror movies and horror fiction and that kind of thing. And not just mainstream horror, but also like B-rated movies or the original ones that have then been rebooted, that kind of thing. So these people, it turns out, have created something called the Mary Shelley Club, and it's about finding someone and orchestrating some kind of really scary event. And you, in order to win this, they don't want to call it a prank, but it's a bit more than a prank because it's a bit more involved. And the goal is to get your target person to scream. And so if I give any more away, if I tell you any more, it's going to ruin the suspense. This is definitely a suspense book. There's not that much of a mystery to be solved. It's more, you know, what's happening with these pranks, and there's something happening that's other, and there's something not totally honest about the people. They're all a bit unreliable. Rachel's a bit unreliable because she's suffering from the trauma of the earlier school year. She's reasonably reliable, but I think that means it's 2 o'clock. Okay, so she's a little bit unreliable, but mostly pretty good. But she has a vivid imagination, and she has a high tolerance level for being freaked out, as do the main characters in this book. They all really like a good scare. They like to be scared themselves, so they're after that adrenaline kick that fear brings. I would say that this is definitely a 4.5. The reason I wouldn't give it a full 5, I think, is mostly we don't get a lot of outsiders' viewpoints. We've got the main characters' viewpoints and only those. And I think it would have been a little bit interesting if we could have heard from a little more clearly from some of the people that were frightened. I just think it would have maybe given both sides of the storyline in terms of those who scare and those who have been scared. It's just a small detail, I think. I think that most people that I have bumped into have liked the pacing in this book. I think the beginning was a little bit slower than I would have liked, and I think that the other kids in the Mary Shelley Club were not hugely different from each other. They were male and female and tough nut and cool dude, and one of them wasn't very developed at all. So I think that those characters could have been a little bit more individualized. So that's why I can't go. Maybe I'll go to a 4 out of 5, yeah. But if you want suspense, it really, really works, and there's a lot of tension in it, and I enjoyed it. Okay, the other thing that I am reading currently, it's for one of my book clubs, the Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. It's kind of all over the place on BookTube and places like that this year, but I believe, well, I could be telling a whopper, but I'm pretty sure that book 2 is out there somewhere. So this is a very big surprise to me that my book club chose this, but it's for the month of November, and I think they just wanted something kind of easy to go into December with. So what is it about? It's about a bunch of people who are living in a retirement home. So they're all somewhere between the age of 60 and say 85. And what they like to do on Thursday nights is they have somehow got access to files of cold case murder cases. And so they like to try and solve them, and they will maybe invite in someone who's an expert on pottery, because pottery was involved in somebody's murder or so on. And they will just work their way through the case file until they come to a solution that they're happy with. And they don't solve it in real time, they just solve it in this sort of Thursday night kind of a book club. And then one morning they wake up to discover that one of the people who's involved in the development of this seniors complex has been murdered, and that's where I'm at right now. So, and that's fairly early, and it is a murder mystery, so you know someone's got to get murdered in some fashion, so not really a spoiler. Anyhow, I'm on page 53, really enjoying it, and I anticipate that it'll be a really good read. The thing that I always, always worries me about murder mysteries is just how are they going to end it? I should say about the Shelley Club, I didn't figure it out who was the bad person and who was the good person. So you're not going to figure, I don't think you'll figure it out. And this one I haven't read far enough into it to have a sense of who the murderer is going to be. And I was just finished reading, it was an audiobook, and I just thought I would try this for reading before I fall asleep. And it was The ABC Murder by Agatha Christie, which is Poirot. And I can't say I'm loving them. And it isn't so much the way that she structured the mysteries. I understand they're older. There's been a lot of development in the murder mystery genre since then. But they ended up bringing someone into the scenario who just didn't belong. And it was, well, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but it was so improbable. And I thought, is this a red herring? Have I really missed some key information? Where is this going to go? It doesn't make any sense that this person would be the murderer. And yeah, so the ending for me was, well, I'm not going to tell you the total ending because, I did have reason to be suspicious. But I just don't love when the bad guy kind of comes in from nowhere and all of a sudden just has all the wherewithal to do these murders and so on. So I do like my murderer to be part of the gang. Does that make it a cozy mystery? I don't know. I guess as opposed to searching for a serial killer who is definitely not part of the search team, I guess that's the opposite of cozy murderer and suspenseful murderer kind of scenario. So anyway, that's just my ramblings about murder mystery. I don't know what I'm going to talk to you about next week. I may, if all goes well, be finished my nonfiction books, but I don't know. So we'll see you soon, and I hope that in the meantime, all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. Bye-bye.